happened, the Muslims needed some type of a clear designation for their calendar. So they were trying to debate which should be year one. They were trying to select an incredible event that would mark the very first year. They had the months, but they did not have year one and year two and so forth. Some of them suggested that it should be the birth of the Prophet ﷺ. Others suggested that it should be the year in which the revelation of the Quran began. But then Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu recommended that year one marks the migration of the Muslims from Mecca to Medina. And that particular opinion was adopted by Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu and most of the companions at the time. And Hijrah became the event that sparked the beautiful Islamic calendar. 1443 years later, we still remember that incredible event that defined Islamic history as we know it. It was the precursor of almost every incredible thing that happened in our history ever since. Think of the Battle of Badr, the conquest of Mecca, the expansion of the empire. Think of Islam reaching the borders of China and Spain. Think of the impact on arts, philosophy, science, and culture. All of that. Everything that we are today owes one way or the other to that incredible event that shaped our history. When the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ left the persecution of the city of Mecca and traveled hundreds of miles across the desert into the city of Medinah for a new hope, for a new state and a new civilization. And a lot of people ask, how did Muhammad pull it off? How did he take hundreds of his followers out of Mecca without being hurt and harmed? And how did he so quickly establish this new civilization that inspired the world and continues to do so ever since? And people are always divided into two camps when it comes to that type of interpretation. And those two camps reflect the binary nature of how most Muslims think today. Some would say that the Prophet ﷺ succeeded in his hijrah, in his migration from Mecca to Medina, because he exhausted every ounce of physical means at his disposal. He operated with the assumption that if he doesn't help himself, no help is going to come to him. He asked Ali ibn Abi Talib to stay in his bed in order to create that diversion. He paid off all of his debts. He maintained strict discipline in the ranks. It remained a secret for weeks that the Muslims planned to actually migrate under the darkness of the night. The secret was kept extremely well. The Prophet ﷺ maintained very effective intelligence, gathering information from the enemy. He took a completely different route that was never taken before. Goes south first and then north. No one ever done that. The Prophet ﷺ left in the darkness of the night to ensure that as little people as possible would see him. He hid in the cave of Thawr, which is today very close to Mecca. If you ever perform Umrah, you can actually see it. The Prophet ﷺ hired the greatest and best guide, Abdullah ibn Urayqit, who was not even Muslim, in order to guide them across the desert. And he asked Abdullah to bring his flock of sheep and goats so that they walk behind them and cover their tracks. He asked Asma bint Abi Bakr radiallahu anha to be their intelligence officer and the one that supplies them with food and water. He did everything sallallahu alaihi wasallam to calculate and plan. And people always say, well, the Prophet was successful precisely because of his calculation and his planning and taking advantage of the means at his disposal. That is one camp. The other camp says that the Messenger ﷺ was successful in his migration because he relied so heavily on the help and assistance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of the Creator. He prayed extensively. He prayed wholeheartedly. He prayed so frequently. He waited for God's permission to leave his house. And when he left his house, he walked around the ranks of the enemy, trusting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would blind their eyes so that they don't see him. وَجَعَلْنَا مِن بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ سَدًّا وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ سَدًّا, as Allah said in Surah Yasin. We put a barrier in front of their eyes and a barrier behind them so that they don't see. He trusted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he hides in the cave. And if you've ever been to the cave of Thawr, I haven't visited it personally. I visited Ghar Hira, the cave of Hira, but I haven't visited the cave of Thawr. Everyone that visited it would tell you that this is a cave that has a very unique structure. When you go inside, you basically go down. And as you're standing in the cave, it is only your head that is showing from the entrance of the cave. So the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr were sitting all the way down, and the people of Mecca that were following them, the bounty hunters, were standing right there. And Abu Bakr whispers in the Prophet's ears, Ya Rasulullah, لو طأطأ أحدهم برأسه لرآنا. If any of them literally just peeks down, they would see us. They could see their legs and their feet at the entrance of the cave. And with a great smile and certainty in the promise of God, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam says to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu, his friend and companion on the journey, Ya Aba Bakr, ما بالك باثنين الله ثالثهما. What do you think of two? God is their third companion. Don't worry about it. لا تحزن إن الله معنا. Do not despair, for God is with us. The Prophet ﷺ succeeded in that feat of success because he relied so heavily on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he prayed, because he depended on God. These are two camps. And the two camps represent how we operate. Some Muslims think that success is achieved by hard work. You see them working extremely hard, planning, calculating, consulting, going online, talking to the right people. They operate as if God doesn't exist. It doesn't occur to them that they need to pray. It doesn't occur to them that they don't have to fight the battle alone. It doesn't occur to them that they need to depend on the power of their Creator. On the other hand, you also see some Muslims that are sitting around doing absolutely nothing and just praying. And we tell them, prayer without effort doesn't work. God helps you if you try to help yourself. Exhaust the means and then pray. It's the binary vision of most Muslims, or many Muslims at least. And I came here, brothers and sisters, today to tell you that the Prophet ﷺ succeeded in his migration, and he pulled that massive operation off with minimal casualties because he managed somehow to combine the two approaches. He did not belong to one camp or the other. He knew in his heart of hearts, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that success is determined by those two things. You exhaust the means as if it is only the means that will get you there, and you rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if means don't even exist. That is the balance that guided his life every step of the way, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You would see him make decisions and take steps and organize his ranks, and you would think that he's making all these secular moves that a prophet wouldn't do. And on the other hand, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so heavily as if no physical means even exist or matter. And that guided his steps. It wasn't just Hijrah, by the way. If you look at the Battle of Badr, for example, he trained his troops. He organized and maintained discipline in the ranks. He made sure that they were well equipped. He selected the best battleground. And after he's done everything that he could do, he sat on his knees, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he started praying. And he prayed and prayed and prayed. And as he prayed, his voice got louder. And he got more emotional. And he started tearing up. And he raised his hands. And he kept calling upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahumma in tahlaka hadhihi al-usaba falan tu'bad ala al-ardi ba'da al-yawm. Lord, if this cohort of the believers are destroyed today, your name is not going to be mentioned again. And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq comes to him, هون عليك يا رسول الله على رسلك يا رسول الله. Take it easy, messenger of God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not abandon you, don't worry. And he hugs him and he comforts him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He would always exhaust the means and then turn his face to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in earnest prayer. That was his motto, alayhi salatu wassalam. And essentially, brothers and sisters, that is the meaning of tawakkul. Tawakkul, this beautiful act of worship that is exercised in the heart. Your hands and your physical body exhausts the means, but your heart knows that success only comes from the Creator, subhanahu wa ta'ala. We've seen that manifest itself in the story of Musa alayhi salam when he was helping the Hebrews flee Egypt in the great Exodus. What is it that Musa did, alayhi wa ala nabiyyina salatu wassalam, when he arrived to the sea? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructed him to do what? To point his staff at the sea. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructed him to point his staff at the sea. Have you ever thought why? God could have just split the sea. Why does he have to ask Musa to come all the way and to split the sea? فَانْفَلَقَ فَكَانَ كُلُّ فِرْقٍ كَالطَّوْضِ الْعَظِيمِ. When he pointed the staff at the sea, it split open and he created those two mountains of water, massive on both sides, creating a passage for the Hebrews to cross. Why? Because as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala plans to help you, He wants to see you helping yourself. He wants to see you take your own affairs seriously. He wants to see you plan and calculate and put the effort, and then He helps. But people who are sitting around doing absolutely nothing with their lives, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not help them because miracles don't happen in our era anymore. The story of Maryam, the mother of Jesus, alayhi salam. Remember the story? She just gave birth to her little baby, Isa alayhi salam. And then she's extremely tired, she's exhausted, she's hungry. And what does Allah instruct her to do in the Quran? وَهُزِّي إِلَيْكِ بِجِذْعِ النَّخْلَةِ تُسَاقِطْ عَلَيْكِ رُطَبًا جَنِيًّا. He instructs a woman that just gave birth to stand up and to hold the huge palm tree and to attempt to shake the palm tree so that the beautiful juicy dates fall on her so she can eat. How's that even possible? How is that possible? Is it possible that any man, not even a woman, the strongest man can actually take the massive trunk of a palm tree and start shaking? It won't even move an inch. But what is the moral here? The moral is put as much effort as you can and I'll take care of the rest. I want to see you try, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. But when you despair and sit in the corner and lament over your circumstances and cry over the spilled milk forever, you can do that. But I guarantee it, the help of God is not going to come. Only when you have exhausted every ounce of means and you turn your face to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with certainty in your heart, Lord, I've done everything I could. I've done everything I could. Now, I need a little help from you. It is only then at that moment that the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually comes. And the incredible part of this, brothers and sisters, is that if you don't have the dependence on Allah in your heart, the idea of exhausting the means will get old. Because one of two things will happen. It's either I keep exhausting the means and I keep planning and calculating and putting the effort, and then I become successful, and then I become self-sufficient, and then I become arrogant, and then I think that I have made all this. I did it. And it corrupts the heart. Or the opposite of that scenario is that you give up and you get burned out and you don't know how far I need to go and you don't know if there's any further steps, and you know what? I've tried and tried and tried and it didn't work. I better try something else. It is like someone who keeps digging for a treasure and 2 inches before the chest shows up, he gives up and walks away. But if you have the dependence on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your heart, you will exhaust the means because you're required to exhaust the means and you will never stop. I will keep going. I will keep marching forward. I will keep treading until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings that success that I've been yearning for. And there is a feeling about comfort that comes with that. When you know that it is not your effort that achieves success, it is Allah and His intervention, it brings comfort and removes anxiety. Otherwise, you're always worried. Do I need to do more? Have I done enough? Is there something else? No. You keep going steady and you keep putting your effort with a smile on your face, with comfort and tranquil in your heart. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send relief at a time of His choosing, not yours. That is what the believer does. And it's incredible because I was thinking about all of this week as I watched the events in Afghanistan unfold. And those of you who know me well, I have a tremendous love and respect for the Afghan people. I'm always amazed at how they would rather live in poverty and honor than live in wealth and dishonor. I've always had so much respect for their resilience, for their strength, for their love of the deen, right? Yes, all kinds of bad news always comes from Afghanistan, but I see beyond that. I see a people who lived in peace for centuries, and their situation got complicated only because of foreign intervention. Prior to the Soviet invasion, the Afghan people did okay. They were relatively poor, but they did okay. And then the Soviets came, and then the US intervention came, and here we are, 30, 40 years later, and the country is still struggling. Our brothers and sisters are still struggling. And the news coming from Afghanistan and the Taliban take over and all of that is bringing a tremendous amount of uncertainty. I spoke with a lot of local Afghans in this community, and there's a lot of uncertainty. It is too early to judge how the Taliban is going to operate. Is this a Taliban 2.0 or, a modern manifestation of the same old stuff? There's conflicting news coming out of Afghanistan right now, so we don't know exactly what is happening. What we know is that there is fear. What we know that there's uncertainty, that people don't know what is going to happen to them. But if we've learned anything from the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ, we learn this one lesson. That we don't choose the circumstances of life that happen to us. We don't choose the crises of this world. We don't choose the upheavals. But we can choose how to deal with them. We can choose how to react. Natural disasters do happen. Wars and conflict do happen. I cannot control that. What I can control is my heart. What I can control is what I do and what I say. And I will exhaust all of the means and then delegate my matters and affairs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And say, Lord, I have tried and tried and tried. Now it's your turn. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be with our Afghan brothers and sisters in these difficult times. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep them strong and united. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us to hear good and better news every day coming out of that beautiful country. Allahumma ameen. Brothers and sisters, raise your hands and speak to Allah Azza wa Jal from the heart. وَدُعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَنْتُمْ مُوقِنُونَ بِالْإِجَابَةِ. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأصلي وأسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين وقائد الغر ما يمين محمد الصادق الوعد الأمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وارض اللهم عنا معهم بفضلك وكرمك أرحم الراحمين اللهم آمين. My dear brothers and sisters, I'm sharing with you some thoughts about Hijrah today, the great migration of the Prophet ﷺ, the Muslims from Mecca to Medinah that happened 1,443 years ago. This is how our Islamic calendar started. That's the event that sparked the civilization. Everything that came after was inspired one way or the other of that incredible consequential event. And I said that of all the great lessons of Hijrah, there's one lesson that I wanted to share with you today, and that is a lesson in Tawakkul. What is Tawakkul? Tawakkul is a state of the heart. Facing the great challenges of the world, I do everything that I can do with my own hands. I plan, I calculate, I put the effort, I make the exertions. But after I've exhausted all the means, my heart turns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in absolute full surrender and submission. And I say, Lord, I have done everything I could. Now I need your help. And you wait. And you practice this ibadah. The scholars call it ibadatun intidhar al-faraj. It's an act of worship of waiting for divine relief. That, by the way, is an act of worship in and of itself. To persevere, to have sabr, waiting for the relief of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after you've done everything in your capacity. The prophetic migration from Mecca to Medina exemplified that. Every step of the way the Prophet ﷺ took advantage of the means. He exhausted the means. He took all the needed steps as if God doesn't even exist. But then he turns his face to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in earnest prayer as if no physical means do exist. That is the balance of the believer. Take advantage of what's available in your hands and turn your face to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and rely on Him heavily. This is how Rasulullah succeeded sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there's an incredible story At the end, towards the end of Hijrah that I want to share with you and conclude today's khutbah, it's the story of Suraq ibn Malik. Suraq was not Muslim, but he was known to be a very, very astute, successful bounty hunter. He heard of the ransom on the Prophet's head, dead or alive, bring Muhammad, 100 camels. And his greed drove him to gallop across the desert in order to get on the tail of the Prophet and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, in order to pick up their trail. And he was very smart and intelligent, and he knew that the Prophet ﷺ was going to take a different route to Medina. So while all the bounty hunters were going north, he went south. I mean, Medina is kind of like northeast to Mecca. So you need to go this direction. The Prophet ﷺ goes south, and then he goes like in this weird V-shaped route in order to evade the bounty hunters. And Suraq followed him. And then about a half mile out, he saw Muhammad ﷺ, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and their guide Abdullah ibn Urayqid. He saw the three and he said, oh man, that's them right there. The bounty is mine. He gets on his horse and he gallops. And he's a fighter, he's a warrior. He didn't care. He said, I will either kill them or arrest them. And subhanAllah, he gallops for just a few moments and his horse trips. And he falls off the horse. And you know, the Arabs at that time, they had this intimate relationship with their horses. You know, they trusted their horses. So he's like baffled. What is wrong with you? How could you do this? So he gets back on the horse. He gallops for a few moments. The horse falls. He tries and tries and tries, and every time he gets on his horse, the horse falls. And that's when he stood and he looked at his horse, and then he said, something is wrong today. And he tries to take the horse and gallops the other direction, the opposite direction, and the horse keeps going. But when he points the horse at the Prophet's direction, the horse trips and falls. Remember from the story of the elephant? When they move the elephant towards the Kaaba, it doesn't move an inch. They move it in any other direction, it moves. So that's when Suraq realized that there are powers at play here beyond his imagination, beyond his conception and understanding. So he gave up. And when the Prophet ﷺ saw him that he gave up and he stopped, they stopped. And Suraq said, Ya Muhammad, please don't run away. I need to talk to you. So they asked him to drop his weapons and to approach very slowly. And Rasulullah, Abu Bakr and Abdullah ibn Urayqid drew their swords. And he said, I swear I'm not armed. I just need an explanation. Please, someone explain to me what just happened. You are in my reach. And then something happens to my horse and I can't get to you. What is happening here? And the Prophet ﷺ told him, this is the protection of God. This is not me. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What did you think? And then he said to him these incredible words. A man who's a fugitive, who's running away from his own people that are pursuing him to take his own life because he speaks the truth of God. This very man, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, promises his bounty hunters the most incredible thing. Ya Suraq, ma taqulu fi siwaray Kisrah. What do you say about the two bracelets of Kisrah Anushirvan, the great king of Persia? So Suraq said, what do you mean? The two bracelets of Kisrah. This is the wealthiest and most powerful man on earth, only rivaled perhaps by the Roman emperor. What do you mean? This is the most inaccessible piece of jewelry on the planet. What do you mean the two bracelets of Kisrah? He says, go home now and don't tell anyone that you found us. And I give you my word that one day the two bracelets of Kisrah will be yours. Initially Suraq laughed, but he realized the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr were not laughing. Are you serious? That's your promise to me? He says, that's the only thing I can give you. Suraq realized that it's not going to work anyway. I can't take these three men on my own. So he said, okay, fine, whatever. And then he just walked away. Years have passed. Suraq is still not Muslim. And then the conquest of Mecca took place. Suraq accepted Islam eventually when he became older. And subhanAllah, as I started this khutbah with Umar ibn al-Khattab, I ended with Umar ibn al-Khattab. At the time of Umar, the Muslims reached the absolute depth of Persia. And the Persian Empire fell. And all the glory of the Persian Empire was brought to the city of Medinah. All the great spoils, including the jewelry, the personal jewelry collection of Kisra Anushirvan, the king of Persia himself. And of course, Umar was baffled. Soldiers historically would just loot this stuff. They would steal it and run away. Who would know? So Umar looked at the treasure chests and he says, "Inna qawman addu hadha la umana." A people who deliver these spoils and follow the law and not pilfer and steal something for themselves are truly honest people. And he opens up one of the chests, and there it was, as shiny and luminous as the sun. The two beautiful braces of Kisrah. And he takes them out, and he couldn't believe his eyes. He cries, radiallahu anhu arda. How far have we come? From goat herders into civilization builders, into conquerors of the world. The Roman Empire with its might could not bring the Persians to their knees, and here we are. The simple Bedouins of the desert were able to defeat the Persians. But he didn't forget. He didn't forget that one day the Prophet ﷺ promised Suraq the two bracelets of Kisrah. And Imam al-Bayhaqi tells the story, and he actually narrates from Imam Shafi'i's narration. And he says he sent messengers all over the city of Medina asking for Suraq. Ya Suraq, Ya Suraq, until they found him in his house. Halumma ila Amir al-Mu'mineen. The commander of the faithful is asking for you. He says, asking for me? He says, yes. The head of state is asking for you by name. And Suraq arrives, and Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu says, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam promised you this about 15 years ago. Here it is. And Suraq could not believe his eyes, and he fell on his knees and he cries. He had completely forgotten about that moment, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would eventually make it happen, that the promise of Rasulullah would be fulfilled. He had forgotten about the incident, and here it was, the two bracelets of the greatest king in his own hands. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam knew that he had exhausted the means. He did everything in his capacity. And that's when he turned his face to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and relied on him, and that was that. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fill our hearts with that unwavering, unrelenting dependence on God. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fill our hearts with tawakkul. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fill our hearts with that beautiful balance, to make any insurmountable object in this world breachable. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make every barrier something that we can cross over. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the strength, the resilience, and the tenacity to overcome the problems and the challenges of this world. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to strengthen our hearts and minds, to strengthen our physical bodies. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be with our brothers and sisters in Afghanistan in these difficult times. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep them unified, to keep them strong. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put inspiration in the hearts of their leaders to do that which is best for their country. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give them strength over international intervention. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep them on the straight and the right path. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to minimize and eliminate bloodshed. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us instruments of positive change in their lives. Allahumma ameen. And Ya Allah, as you have gathered us here in this shape and form, we ask you that you gather us in the highest level of Jannah. Allahumma ameen. Brothers and sisters, do pass the boxes inshallah down the rows. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you for your continuous support. If you don't have any cash, you can always use Venmo. Find us inshallah ta'ala on Venmo as Tarbiyah Institute, or talk to our office manager and our volunteers on your way out inshallah to make a contribution. Jazakumullahu khairan. We are still recommending that all of us inshallah wear face masks as they are in our indoor facilities. Again, we're very, very strongly recommended that all of you keep your face masks on for as long as you're inside the building. The Delta variant of the coronavirus has been hurting a lot of people in our community. Inshallah, please stay safe and keep everyone around you safe. If you are new to our community, again, please grab one of the welcome forms. Introduce yourself, tell us who you are. We'd like to get to know you and understand the needs of your family. We would love, inshallah ta'ala, to have a meeting with you as well. Our upcoming course that is offered by the Tarbiyah Seminary, God and Philosophy, is now open for registration. And inshallah, I will be teaching this class myself. You can register at tarbiyah.org/seminary. Also, our Arabic 100 registration is open. It's taught by Sister Amal. To register, also visit tarbiyah.org/seminary. Our chaplaincy program is now live, serving the community's spiritual care needs by following the prophetic tradition of nurturing hearts and restoring spiritual wellness. Check out a service brochure or visit tarbiyah.org/chaplaincy for more information on the services that we offer, or if you would like to volunteer as a community chaplain yourself. Our Sunday school registration is now open, and it's not too late to register, so go to our website, inshallah, for more information. Our youth camp, Camp Tabarak, a journey of reflection, hiking, bonfires, great food, tahajjud, khatiras, and more. The boys will be August 27 through 29, girls September 10 through 12. We have just a few seats open for the boys' camp and a few for the sisters, so again, visit tarbiyah.org for more information. Youth soccer, Fridays 5:30 to 6:30 at THR. Also, you can register at the website. If you have, again, little kids at home, bring them to the masjid. We have an incredible soccer program here taught by Brother Mundhir and Brother Kazim. We'd love to see your kids, inshallah, participate. Our youth booth is outside. On your way out, you get to know, inshallah, more information about all the youth programs offered here at THR or at THN. And our youth group meetings, THR 5 to 6 p.m. every Friday, THR and THN 7 to 9 p.m. inshallah. We're still looking for a receptionist to help us with some of the work here on a regular basis. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. Our fall festival will be held on Sunday, October 31st at 5 p.m. This is at both our two locations, inshallah. Tafsirah tonight will start at 7 p.m. I'm excited, alhamdulillah, to start Surah Al-Anbiya. So join us tonight at 7 p.m. if you can make it in person. Otherwise, follow the live broadcast online. Ummah nights at THN, 7 p.m. inshallah, with Imam Kamran on Dua versus Qadr. Our third shift of Salatul Jum'ah is now at 3:30 p.m. to accommodate children's school schedule. So inshallah ta'ala, keep that in mind. At THR, Falafel Corner will be selling food after the 3 shifts, inshallah. Also, please make dua for Afghanistan and its people. These are difficult times for them and for the Ummah. And remember Brother Omar Waris's uncle, Tasdiq Ahmed. He was recently admitted to the hospital for COVID complications. And inshallah ta'ala, very soon we will announce our upcoming blood drive. This is coming up in September. Inshallah, we'll be releasing more information about that. Allahumma ghfir lana dhunubana وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين تقبل منا يا ربنا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واجعلنا هداة مهديين لا ضالين ولا مضلين نحب بحبك من أحبك ونعادي بعداوتك من عاداك اللهم وحد صفنا واجمعنا على قلب أتقى واحد فينا اللهم كن مع إخواننا في أفغانستان اللهم ثبت الأرض من تحت أقدامهم واربط على قلوبهم اللهم انصرهم على عدوك وعدوهم اللهم يا ربنا ووحد صفهم وانصرهم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات المسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات يا رب العالمين وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا